Every single thing that you do in life is a gamble. No matter how you look at it, you're always gambling.
So what attributes did you think are important for someone to win at poker?
You need to.
You've done over about 100 million in sales online through different businesses. What was that journey? What did it look like?
The first success rate was the personal training business. And, that was in a physical location. Physical location business kind of sucks. I wanted something that would work online, which is when I created hypothyroid body transformation.
What did you guys achieve in what period of time?
We were doing $10 million a year. I got to the point where I was just like, I am not enjoying this anymore.
The personal trainer in you had to die because that person has certain characteristics and has certain limiting beliefs. And in order for you to step into the new version of you, the Andrew, wearing the watch, traveling the world, living the dream, that Andrew had to die.
I knew the pathway forward and I knew the pain that I had to go through to get to that.
What were some of the skills that you recognized? Like, I need to learn this in order for us to succeed.
The biggest skill is...
Welcome back to the Freedom Formula podcast. Today's guest is someone who's lived through both sides of the entrepreneurial game, the highs of scaling big and the lows of watching it all come undone. Andrew Gaussen is an entrepreneur and marketer who's generated over $100 million in revenue across his businesses and clients. His most successful venture, the 4% Club, became one of Australia's, if not the world's, largest health and fitness companies before eventually going into liquidation. And the turning point reshaped everything because what Andrew learned through that failure became the foundation for even greater success. Today, he's leading She Sells, a global movement that empowers women to build financial, time, and location freedom through remote sales. In this episode, we're diving into Andrew's philosophy on the success and failure loop, why failure is actually the fuel, how to keep moving when most people would actually quit, and what it takes to build businesses that last. But before we jump in, if you're enjoying these conversations with real freedom fighters who are rewriting the rules of time, money, and geographical freedom, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. All right, let's get into it. Andrew, welcome to the show. Andrew Gaussen, the man, the myth, the legend. Pleasure to have you on the Freedom Formula. So for those that don't yet have the pleasure of knowing Andrew Gaussen, right? You're sitting in this studio and there's a story and you're wearing a watch. Tell me about that watch first and foremost.
So the watch is
What is it?
It's a breakup present to myself.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I happen to make a very large amount of money in crypto, and I broke up with my girlfriend, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and I decided to spend a very large amount of that money on this watch.
And there is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And so I love the watch. So the man, then there's the business owner. So we want to explore those things, right? So tell me, so you grew up in Sydney. And from what I guess I know about you, I've known you for a long time, right? You've been a huge part of my life, and it seems that very early on, you rejected the average, the status quo, the normal path as such, and you chose a different path. Tell me at what point, sort of in your teens, and then into your early 20s, did a business start to become something that you were interested in? So how and what was that journey? What did it look like?
I think that I've always wanted to be different. Since I can remember, people did one thing, I just wanted to do the opposite. And I was so entrepreneurial from such a young age, everything was all about business, and it was all just a big game to me, and so much fun. The first thing that I really got into business-wise was selling fireworks at school. I literally
the young entrepreneur selling fireworks, blowing shit up.
Yeah, exactly. Some kids would buy them from Canberra. I'd take them from my school and go sell them to my local high school. And I'd sell them at a.
What kind of margins were you working on? Just so I'm clear.
10x.
So did you have like an insurance kind of policy on your products or?
No.
Like
I got dobbed in and got in a lot of trouble. So that didn't last too long. But I've always had that sort of mindset, and I think that went towards the end of school, and I really got into poker, and that became, I had so many, different options at that point in time, but I ended up becoming a professional poker player as soon as I got out of school.
Professional poker. That's so random. And so professional poker is something that, what drew you to that? Because that's unusual.
Yeah, I think everyone, when they think about making money, they also think about how can I make money really quick. And, at the time it was 2004 when I just was finishing school, and the World Series of Poker was on and they had this huge poker boom. Joe Hasham, the Australian guy, was just about to win the World Poker Series. And, I just got addicted. I started playing at lunch and taking everybody's lunch money. And then I ended up at the casinos, fresh 18 years old. And I ended up online just playing. And, I was really good at it. It just came very, very naturally to me. And I did a lot of study, a lot of research, and it really just took off.
So what attributes did you have to have, or do you think are important for someone to win at poker? Because this is important.
Yeah. There are a lot. You need to, resilience is a big one because you're going to lose 50% of the time. 40, you're going to lose 49% of the time. You have to get used to. You have to get used to losing, and you've got to have such a strong desire to win, right? It's just like, for example, if you for 1 second allow yourself to think, maybe I don't want it, right? You're not going to, because there's so much to the game. It's like you've got to be able to understand the maths behind every situation, right? You've also got to be able to understand people, know when to bluff, to read the game, understand betting patterns. There's a huge amount to it. And all of those skills translate directly to business.
That's what I was about to get to, because the poker player is not just playing poker. There's certain attributes in that transfer to business. So you've done over about 100 million in business online, right? In sales online through different businesses. Now, so much of what you had to embody to be able to do that, that's hard. If anyone has any context, doing $1 online is hard, let alone 100 million. I want the listeners just to take stock of that for a minute. That is significant, right? To do that, there's the attributes, there's the characteristics of a human that is non-negotiable in order to be able to do that, which was the stuff that you were sort of mentioning from poker, which was resilience, backing yourself, being okay with rejection, recognizing patterns, gambling risk, because really in many ways, right? I mean, we've been involved in different businesses. In many ways, so much of it is a gamble. There is no guarantee that anything is going to work. And so pattern recognition, being able to study trends and patterns and shifts and be able to assess the probability of a win is part of the formula, I would imagine.
Yeah, 100%. It's like every single thing that you do in life is a gamble. No matter how you look at it, you're always gambling. And it's just, are you going to be gambling in a positive way, a destructive way? And what's the outcome of that going to be? Who you choose as your partner. It's a gamble, right? Because you know a certain amount of information, but how do you use the information that's in front of you in that moment and predict success?
Yeah, to a larger degree, basically. So, at this point in your life, I mean, from my perspective, you're a true freedom fighter. But by definition, you run your own business, you print money basically if you want to, because you've got the capacity to do that. You run funnels, marketing, you recognize patterns, you have offers running, you choose where you live in life. You rejected basically, the I suppose the normal path, which is just to stay in Australia and to, buy an average home, whatever it is. You've moved overseas. You've established yourself as a citizen in Dubai.
A resident of the UAE.
A resident of the UAE. But you've also lived in Miami, and now you live in Bali. So you're by definition, you're a true freedom fighter, right? But that's where you are now. Let's go back then to, I guess, the first significant business that you launched online. What was that, and what did that look like?
Yeah, well, just briefly touch on being a personal trainer first.
Yeah,
you and I have a
Isn't
very
it interesting?
yeah.
Isn't it interesting? I just had this conversation with another guest, that's coming on the show, that he was a personal trainer as well. And he's gone on to do so well online. It just seems to be that industry that can produce champions. It's like we get dragged through the mud and do the worst of shit possible. That then gives us the ability to do some stuff online, I imagine.
Yeah, I think being a personal trainer, the best personal trainers are the ones who build the strongest relationships with their clients, right?
Yeah.
You can, get all the results you want with a client, but unless, it's the relationship that means that the business lasts. Yeah. And I think that when you're really good at people, you understand people, and you've got a brain wired for analysis, you have success. And I think that, there are a lot of personal trainers who have had huge success in the business world. I see.
For Alex Hormozi, one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Personal trainer.
For me, the first success, right, was the personal training business. And, that was in a physical location. And, as you're aware, it's physical location business kind of sucks.
Big time.
Yeah, like
So many downsides to it.
It started off like obviously being an employee. I worked at a Vision personal training back in the day.
Oh, you worked at a Vision?
Yeah, I worked at a Vision. And it was really tough because you don't choose your hours. I was getting paid $20 an hour.
Peanuts.
I'd wake up at 4:30 a.m. Had to be be running boxing sessions, doing all the things that I don't like doing, and very little money, and also having to find my own clients. So you were almost like, all the downside was there. You're running your own business at the same time
without the upside
of getting paid.
That's crazy,
right? So
that's crazy.
I think that
great for them, not great for you.
What though? Like, young guys and girls who come to me who are starting out in personal training, I always say it's actually one of the best entries you could possibly have because I got worked to the bone.
Yeah,
and I'm so grateful for that experience because it was tough, but I really got put through. I really took a beating, but that beating has created who I've become today. It allowed me to learn the systems. It allowed me to get results for clients.
Yep.
So, without that step of going and learning at Vision Personal Training, I don't know I'd be where I am today.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so you attribute a lot of the character, I suppose, as a part of the learning to that particular role.
Yeah, and then from there, I effectively went into the big box gyms and started running businesses on my own. And, things got better because at least you're getting paid a little bit more, right? You go from earning $20 an hour and now you can start charging $100 an hour minus your expenses that you're paying the gym and all that sort of stuff. And then went on the journey of bringing on some staff. And
well, that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah. That's fun as well, particularly when you don't know what you're doing and you're just hiring your friends.
Yeah.
And then, it really came down to this point where I was like, well, what do I really want in life? And I love traveling. And I was like, well, I don't want to be tied down to a physical location. I don't want to go into the gym every day. I don't want to have to see clients. At heart, I'm truly an entrepreneur, and I wanted something that would work online, which is when I created Hypothyroid Body Transformation, which was actually the first online business. It was me as the attractive character. I was the person out there talking about, I have hypothyroidism myself. So I was talking about my story with that, and then, relating that particularly to women as to, how I could help change their lives going through the same change that I've already gone through.
Yeah. So you started this new business and the hypothyroid at a time too where, the leads were
30 cents.
If I could go back in time, like if I had a time machine and we knew what we knew today, oh my God.
But that was 2017.
What was a lead costing you back then?
So I was paying 30 cents per person into our Facebook group.
That is insane.
And we're talking roughly from there, like we're talking like $9 to book someone in off that, probably less.
Yeah. To give the viewers a bit of context, today you pay anywhere from 100, 200, maybe 300 in Australia. If it's in the US, maybe more, right? Yeah. Depending, I guess, on the offer and how good it is. So like it was at an all-time low. Your business is kicking off, the hypothyroid body transformation. And what did you guys achieve in what period of time?
Okay, so in our very first week, what we did was we ran a 7-day challenge. So I was working with my business partner, also an Andrew, a bit confusing. But we ran our 7-day challenge. We spent $300 on ads to put people in a Facebook group.
That probably scared the shit out of you too. $300?
I was already running ads. Running ads, so it didn't quite scare the shit out of me. And I like spending money. And we just looked after these women for 7 days. And in our first week, we did $10,000.
$10,000 on how much ad spend?
On $300.
So you turned $300 into 10 grand. Yeah, exactly. Just think about that, right? Okay, so then you've seen this opportunity unfold, and then what happens next?
I quit the gym 4 weeks later.
You quit the gym, and
I got rid of my business, and then I moved overseas 4 months later.
Yeah, so you move overseas, and of course now you're building this brand. And so, what was some of the the skills that you recognize you needed to build? Because personal training is a different thing, completely different skill, and selling in a gym is a totally different thing. Selling face to face is different to selling online. And then of course there's always the nuance of every single niche is different to the other, right? But you're selling online. What was some of the epiphanies that you and the other Andrew figured quite quickly going to be necessary? What were some of the skills that you recognize, like, I need to learn this in order for us to succeed?
The biggest skill is just an attitude of I'm willing to do whatever it takes. It didn't matter what it was. Like for me, like I'm not particularly an overly extroverted person. I hated being on camera.
So you just had to do it.
And I was like, if I want the freedom, if I want this life, I need to be on camera every single day. And I had a business mentor at the time, and he said to me, look, no one in this group's probably going to do this, put everyone up to the challenge. And he's like,
yeah, wow.
If you put a video out on your page every single day for the next 6 months, I promise you'll make $100,000. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I did it.
Every single day.
Every single day.
Organic video.
Every
single day.
This was back in the day I was doing Facebook Lives.
Facebook Live every single day for 6 months. And what did it actually help you achieve?
Well, I made well over the $100,000.
Wow.
But because that was really the catalyst, because that was the thing that started everything. And that was probably the thing that I was most fearful of. It was,
isn't that interesting?
Being judged of being on camera. I used to get ripped on by all the other personal trainers in the gym. You have to swallow that one, but then I look like, where are they now and where am I now? Yeah. And it was like, I faced the thing, and you get put through, I got put through my paces to do it, but it was like, I know the life that I want, and it's unacceptable for me to have anything but that life. And the things that I need to do are this. And I had a very clear road plan, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there.
Yeah. So you were super clear, basically. If I do this, it means I get that. But what I hear in that story is there was a shedding of skin, and this is fascinating, right? Because for anyone to achieve anything significant in life, there's an identity shift that needs to happen. So the personal trainer in you had to die because that person has certain characteristics and has certain limiting beliefs. And in order for you to step into the new version of you, the Andrew, wearing the watch, traveling the world, living in Dubai, living the dream. Creating businesses that legitimately create impact. Yeah. That Andrew had to die. In order to do that, you need to experience change. And that change is scary. Like that change is hard, and most people aren't willing to step into that. But you recognize very quickly that, okay, I need to face the fire here. And so it was your speed to get into the growth zone. That was that what I hear is fascinating.
It's like, everyone, I think the feeling at the time was it's the tall poppy syndrome. You had all the other trainers.
Australia's fucked for that. Terrible. Terrible.
Like, why are you doing that? Why are you stepping out of line?
So
why
quick
are you
to want to pull you down, right? Yeah.
I think I've always been kind of lucky in that I've just enjoyed that. I enjoyed being the weirdo. I enjoyed being the person who stepped out of line. And I think it's partly because I could see, I even then I felt like I could see what was going to happen. I knew the pathway forward, and I knew the pain that I had to go through to get to that.
Totally. I mean, look, here's the thing, right? Because what you did was you were rejecting an ordinary life, an ordinary life that, I guess is a very predictable path, and living in a suburb, maybe close to where you grew up and whatever else it is, right? And driving an ordinary car and existing in an ordinary way. But to experience the extraordinary, you've got to be willing to do extraordinary things, which things are out of your comfort zone, things that are out of your norm, things that are out of what you consider the norm for you, and which is what you did. It's time for a quick pause. If you're listening right now and you know that you were not meant to spend the next 20 years chained to a desk, this is for you. At the Freedom Academy, we'll show you how to master one high income remote skill, which is sales. You can earn 10 to 30K a month from anywhere in the globe. There's no products, there's no staff, there's no guesswork in this approach. Just you, your laptop, and your voice, and a proven system. So freedom for you means more time, more money, and the ability to live wherever you choose. Head to the link in the bio and apply now. All right, back to the show. And so in that process of filming, what went off for you that made you realize I'm on the right path?
You need to have conversations with people to be able to sell them something and to make money. And I just felt an energy of people gravitating towards me. I found people were asking me questions. They wanted more. They wanted my help. They wanted to work with me. And it was because I put myself in a situation where I was an expert in that. Hypothyroidism was something that I'd overcome in my life to become healthy and fit. And I was able to share, my secrets to success with other people. And that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So, there's the element of obviously, wanting to make money, and I want to focus on making money, but there's also the side of it of just like,
service.
Hey, when you've overcome something and you get to share that with somebody else, whether it's that business coaching, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. So, that business continues to grow, and many years on, it is the largest health company in the Southern Hemisphere. if not probably, and I don't know what other companies in the US were doing at that particular time,
Mm.
but I would imagine it would probably have been in the top 5 globally at that time in terms of like sheer numbers. Do you mind sharing just some of the numbers that you guys were doing? So the hypothyroid eventually became another entity, a much larger entity.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it eventually became the 4% Club.
Okay. Yep.
And from there, we went to the 4% Club pretty much because we wanted to go beyond hypothyroidism and it needed a new name.
Expand. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, in terms of numbers that we were doing $10 million a year in our best years.
$10 million a year.
Yeah. And on top of the $10 million a year, we probably did in total somewhere around the range of $40 million in that business.
So $40 million in that business alone. And of course, that business had its ups, but as any entrepreneur will experience if they're legitimately in business, is that not everything always ends in a fairy tale. So where did that lead? But what did you learn more importantly?
Yeah, so that business went from obviously having huge success, particularly in a COVID era, but post-COVID, we started to find that the market became really saturated, and it caused a lot of problems for us. And the profit margins just weren't there. And when you are working every day on the same thing and not having success, we're just like, we potentially need to pivot. And we got to the point where there were no profit margins. Myself and my business partner put back in millions of dollars to try to save it.
Yeah.
And eventually we just saw the writing on the wall, and we brought in the liquidators. The business went into liquidation, and we were actually stuck at a point where we're like, fuck. What are we going to do now?
Yeah, and I know that journey, and I witnessed that what you went through. What I am so proud of, I guess, as being a friend of someone who knows you, is how you responded, because the reality is that the price we pay in order to succeed, and often is failure, right? Failure is just the price we pay sometimes where things don't go to plan. So you obviously learned a lot through that journey. Like you learned an incredible amount: leadership, marketing, scale, all kinds of stuff. I mean, you would have been running $70,000 a week in ad spend alone just to fund that, just to keep the funnel moving at a rate that it needed to, right? If not more.
We had to make, at one stage we had to make about 50 sales a week just to break even, and the
Just
pressure of having to find 50 people and sell them every week
to break even.
Just to break even
before you even break bread, basically.
Yep. And in the meantime, we're losing. We're putting our millions back in. It's like
Yeah, it hurts, right? It hurts. And this is not the normal entrepreneurial experience. There are very few that will experience this degree of challenge or success, right? Most people will play on the edges. They'll start a small business. They'll make maybe they'll make $100,000 a year, maybe, and others might get somewhere close to $1 million if they're lucky, right? But we're talking about $10 million a year, right? So that business had taught you a lot, but you guys, pivoted very quickly. I mean, you've run the 4% Club. You also ran another business, which was the business coaching, which was Systems by Design.
Systems by Design, yeah.
Yeah. So you were helping fitness professionals and health coaches as such learn what you learn and create success as well online. You built that business. That became a 7-figure machine as well.
Yeah, that's correct.
But then you chose to shut it down. So you built another business. It's doing 7 figures. It's profitable. In fact, it was profitable.
It's extremely profitable business. And the thing about it was that it required a very large amount of my time. And, while the health and fitness business was flying at that stage, absolutely flying, record profitable month after profitable month. And then we've got the business coaching business. And what I found myself getting sucked in, and, I love helping people, but on a day-to-day basis,
it draws too much.
It draws so much of my energy, and it left me with nothing else.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was just like, I am not enjoying this anymore. And, from that point in time, we just exited that business and just wanted to focus on health. I also probably helped at that point in time. I talked a little bit about my crypto, and I'd made a huge amount of money in crypto. And
so let's pause on that. Let's double click on that. What was the peak at which you held in crypto at its your portfolio's peak?
Yeah, I had about $16 million at one stage.
$16 million. Oh, and what happened from there?
So I ended up exiting at around 3 million. So I had 16 million. The coin dropped exited at 8 million, bought it back again, came back in. I ended up exiting at 3 million, which when you consider about it, I put in a $300,000 investment and I walked away with 3 million.
That's
But
incredible.
it's still like, it's sometimes hard to, for a very long time, it was hard to deal with because it's like, I know what my best version is. And like, my highest net worth was 16 million. And when you think about it like that way, it sometimes messes with you because you're going, I'm, $13 million away from my best. And I want that. I'm fucking competitive. I want that back.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you're pushing for that again. But so, to sort of continue along this path. So, the 4% then had to shut down, right? It had to. And, you've already been on this journey. You're kind of at ground zero. And I remember some of these conversations, like what happened next, because there's a story here.
Yeah. So we got to this stage where it's like, what is next for us? Because there has to be something. And, we'd put back in millions of our dollars back into the business. So there's a lot of my crypto money gone. I've really started to hit a point where I'm just going, gee, like I'm almost at starting point again. I'm starting over.
Yep.
And it then came, well, how are we going to pivot? Which is when we spoke with Brooke, who Brooke is one of our saleswomen at the 4% Club, and the best female sales rep I've ever seen in my life. Absolute machine. And we decided to go into business with her. And pretty much for me, that just then became my obsession, my all in for for our next run in business, which is what we're doing right now.
And that's incredible, right? Because then you went and now you've built this a new movement. She Sells with Brooke.
Yep.
So you've got your experience through the years building this health brand, but everything is then transferable. Building a movement, creating a funnel, creating a sales system, getting it going.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about sort of where that's at now.
That business is it's crazy. It's so much. I'm enjoying it so much more than the health and fitness business. It's got so much more.
Interesting.
I think that for starters, I stay very much in my lane. Like, for me, I'm Facebook ads, I'm marketing, I'm acquisitions in general. I really do stay out of the sales side of things. I stay out of the customer fulfillment side of things. I leave that up to Brooke and Andrew, who's also a business partner in here. And for me, it's just like when I get to stay in my area of genius and just focus on the thing that I feel that I'm world-class at, that's where we're going to have success. And, the same applies for Brooke, right? When she's in that business, she's the attractive character. She is, managing the clients, right? And making sure that she is teaching them and focusing solely on making sure that they are getting a world-class experience and becoming amazing sales professionals.
So much of pattern recognition seems to be your superpower. You did it with poker, and now you've done it in business. So why She Sells? Like why remote sales specifically? Like what was the decision that you recognized? Okay, well, this is the opportunity that's going to get me back to where I want to be. And yes, I can create impact, but like this is the opportunity. Why was it remote sales?
I think this is really important, and it's like part of it is we started to think about the world and take a step back and actually think, well, where is the world going right now? You've got AI coming in, people are losing their jobs in droves, and that's going to continue to happen and continue to happen. So, we're in a biz op. What we're effectively doing is the world is about to go through a period where people are looking at shifting and changing, and their lives are going to look drastically different over the coming years. And to be able to cater to that market of people who need to find a new career just made financial sense.
Yeah. And I love that because there's a quote that I guess I've built my life on very much so, which is an Eric Hoffer quote, which is, the world's constantly pivoting, in other words, and constantly changing. In a world of change, like it's inevitable that things are going to change. If you don't evolve with it, your skills eventually allow you to exist in a world that no longer exists. That's kind of the quote that Eric Hoffer, you can look it up, right? It's powerful. And that's, I guess, what you recognize, that things are constantly changing. There's a huge shift, but you're recognizing the pattern in advance, and you're, I guess, doing what I would describe as not skating towards the puck. You're skating to where it's going. You're seeing a shift globally. You're seeing changes in terms of how people now, are going to need to work in order to make an income because of this huge change. So remote sales was that thing. And so what have you guys already achieved in the short period of time? It's been like 18 months, maybe 2 years that this has now been live. About 18 months, is that right?
Yeah, so I'd say we've been doing high ticket for 14 months. So we kind of had a low ticket it was sitting in the background.
So what made you ticket to change to a high ticket?
We decided it came down to our time. So we were running she sells at the same time as the 4% Club. However, the time commitment that it would take to run that as a high ticket business at the same time was going to be too great. So what we decided to do instead was, bring in a lot of people on a lower ticket option.
Yeah.
Where we just filled up a group, $97 a month membership sort of style, and we were just going to make that really, really big.
Yeah,
But we got some advice. We spoke to some various people, and it's just like, well, you guys are already doing the high ticket. You're experts at that. Why wouldn't you just take it to this? And that's where things really took off, because all of a sudden, we start selling the program instead of $97. We're selling a program for $5,000 to $10,000.
And isn't that interesting? The same program, basically, right? That people are buying for $97 now, just because of the journey, that the customer journey, you can actually sell it for so much more.
Yeah.
Which just shows you that often it isn't the product they're buying. What they're buying is the change, it's the experience, it's what you're making them feel that either way creates the value, right? Yep. And so you guys have done that and you're succeeding. Back to you, I guess, just to wrap this up. What needs to happen? What do you see happening in the next year to 3 years for you personally, and in order to for you to hit your personal goals? Like what's happening?
I think business is about problem solving, and you're constantly running around in a circle, and you're fixing each problem.
To put it nicely.
Yeah, and at the moment we have some pretty significant problems that we're working through, and when we solve those problems, it'll allow us to take things to the next level. The business is doing very well. We've had a couple of record profitable months, 2 out of the last 3. We're in a very good position, but for us to go from being a $10 million a year business up to a $100 million a year business, which is our ambition, there are some very big changes that need to take place. And, for us to do that, it's about finding a marketing funnel that gets us cheaper leads. And when we solve that problem, that's when you're going to see us jump up and just, be the category king and take over the
space.
Take over the space.
So I suppose to wrap this up, right, and there could be someone listening to this podcast, right, and of course we're talking about hundreds of millions and whatever else, right? There's the ups, there's the downs, there's the story, but there could be a person listening to this that all they need to do is start their journey. Like, what would you say to them in order for them to take that leap and to fight for their freedom?
You've got to be brave. You've just got to step out and you've got to be ready. You've got to want it so much more than anyone else. You've got to decide that this is your future, and you've got to decide you want better. You've got to decide that what your current situation is right now isn't acceptable for the way that you want to live life.
I love that. I heard a quote today actually, which was change doesn't take time. Change takes a decision. It's instant. In other words, you don't need more time in order to decide to change. What you need to decide is right now whether or not it's worth it and whether or not you're willing to pay the price. Because there is a price to pay. But the payoff is so much. You travel the world. You live in Bali, you live in Miami, then I turn online and you're living in Dubai or somewhere else, and you're experiencing what most would just dream of. Not to even talk about all the other things, right? The restaurants, the great stuff. You wake up in the morning, you're not stuck in traffic, commuting to a job that you hate, your soul being drained by a boss that you loathe. You're literally creating impact businesses, changing lives, like empowering people to do things. Like you're a change agent in this world, right? But that started with a decision, and that decision continues to have to be made every single day too, right?
Yeah, it's just like how you want to live your life. Like, life's too short. There's not enough time. You've just got to figure out what it is that you want and how you want to live it. And for me, I'm very specific in the way that I want to live my life. I don't want kids. I want to have the freedom and flexibility to up and move about whenever I want. And, for me, it's just an adventure. I'm just having fun. I just want to keep having fun.
I love that. Well, thank you, Andrew, for being on the Freedom Formula
Been a pleasure. Thank you,
Mate,
Shane.
there's so much that we could have covered. We could probably stay on for 2 hours and talk about all kinds of things, funnels, ads, and whatever else. We might have you on again, and we can deep dive into something more to do with that next time.
Sounds great, mate.
All right, buddy. Thank you, mate. Now, that's a wrap for today's episode on the Freedom Formula podcast. A huge thank you to the one and only Andrew Gaussen for sharing his journey from scaling the 4% Club to navigating the tough lessons of liquidation and now helping women worldwide create financial freedom through She Sells. The big lesson was his understanding that success and failure aren't enemies. They're part of the same cycle. What looks like the end is often just the beginning. And if you have the resilience to keep going, and if you are ready to break out of your own cycle of spinning your wheels and finally build time, money, and geographical freedom, you'll find the link waiting for you in the show notes or in our bio. Go apply now. I'm Shane DaCosta. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, freedom isn't free. It's always worth fighting for, though. See you on the next episode.